Welcome to the Art of Quantum Healing, where we speak about trauma, mental health and healing. I am your host, Lisa Nadler, and I'm thrilled to have you come into my energetic field. In this podcast, I will be sharing my own personal experiences to guide, teach, and help pave the way. We'll also be welcoming so many other divine souls who have overcome trauma and found happiness, health, wealth, and next level abundance through mind, body, and soul connection. My mission is to help women high vibe and thrive with inner peace, passion, and purpose.
Welcome to the Art of Quantum Healing. Today we have a phenomenal guest speaker joining us. I have the wonderful Divine Anne, and we will be going deep on bullying, domestic violence, and mental health with a real beautiful spin all about media and advertising and changing the laws. So welcome, Anne. Is it Anne or Annie?
It is Anne to most people.
Okay.
I have a few that do call me Annie, but hi, how you going, Lisa?
Good. It's like my name because it's got the E in it. People are like, is it Lisa? Is it Leisha? Is it Lisa? I'm like, Lisa. It's just normal Lisa.
Yeah,
welcome.
Yeah, thanks so much. I love that you're getting awareness to this topic. I think good for you. It's definitely, when you first find yourself in the world like this, I think you can get a bit lost and feel like the only one. So I think it's really good what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And I'm just going to read a little bit about you from your bio. Anne is an award entrepreneur, author, and activist. As a survivor of domestic abuse, Anne is determined to remove negative stereotypes out of our media, marketing, and advertising because of the link to domestic violence, bullying, and mental health problems in society. Anne is an advocate for change through her business Suit and Sneakers. That's so cute. Also, which is a global network of inclusive top global talent for marketing, and is also working on changes to the self-regulation system and laws. Anne is author of From the Chaos for Life's Difficult Moments, which she produced with her teenage children. Wow. The little book provokes a hard look at ourselves and the stereotypical thinking that causes conflict in relationships so we can take charge of our own lives. Whoa, some really good subjects there.
Yeah, it's obviously been a bit of a pet topic for a while now. Yeah, thanks. And I think a lot of people just aren't aware. And I know, from my own experience, I was in a relationship that, it was driven by a partner who was just convinced that there were certain jobs that I was supposed to do because I was the woman, sort of thing. And then when I was feeling that I thought it was fairer to be in a bit more of an equal type arrangement. Yeah, we were forever at conflict. Yeah, so and in the end, I just ended up doing everything. So it was like everything to do with the house, everything. I was the breadwinner as well, and parenting and looking after the house and the family and the whole thing. And it just in the end, you just it breaks you, I think.
Absolutely.
And then they just try and put you in their place. Like I couldn't even watch anything on the TV without him coming along and changing channel in front of me because he thought that he was the king of the house.
Yeah. And that is how so many women, and it can also be on the other spectrum too as well, when it comes to men, that being stereotyped into this role when it's not really what their soul is calling, and it's not really it's more of a narcissist environment than anything else, and we're programmed, this is how it's supposed to be, that's your job, you're here to be kids, you're here to do this, you're here to build the house, you're here. It's just that programming of how you're meant to be in it from society, and it's just crazy, and you miserable every day.
Oh, it's a very miserable existence, definitely. I must say I'm glad that you pointed out that it goes both ways with men as well. I feel I stand up for that quite often. And I think that, even a girlfriend around me recently, I pulled her up on being abusive to her husband. And I think a lot of people don't even have the language that it happens with, women emotionally abusing their men either, and physically too. But I know they've tend to be more physically capable, so then they are taught they're supposed to be stoic and all that too, and it just doesn't get reported. So it definitely goes both ways.
Emasculating.
Yeah, definitely.
I think we grow up so masculine instead of being in a feminine environment. So we're trying to be strong and we're trying to be in control as women, and we end up using our words not the way they should be at all. And it's words are so powerful. Oh, they can be so hurtful. Goodness.
That's right. Have you ever seen the Housewives series on Netflix? Oh my goodness. That's like the extreme of the words not being appropriate and people fighting all the time. Oh my goodness.
And white privilege. I'm just like, really? Oh good God, it's a whole different podcast. So Anne, tell us about your journey, hun.
Yeah, I think it's everyone has a different thing. And I would say in the scheme of things, like I definitely felt, there were definitely times where my life was at risk, my children's life was at risk, there were threats. It was emotionally abusive, physically abusive. Like I didn't ever get a black eye or anything. I actually, be honest, I wished for that. Because I thought it was like much more obvious and that I could get help and police because it could prove it, so that sounds so bad, but I realized it was bad. Punched me in the arm once and I could manage. It wasn't so bad, it was a bruise, but you wouldn't do that. And I knew to stand up for that, but I didn't know to stand up for everything else. So sexual abuse. It becomes
your world against them, doesn't it?
It totally is, yeah. And a few times I picked up the phone to get an AVO on him as well. And I just talked myself out of it each time. And I felt like, I'll manage, And I think if I look back now, that's probably a regret I have, because in those instances when I thought that I could manage, the truth is that the system doesn't register those. And so the system, the laws or whatever, they only go by the first complaint. So when you're ready to make your first complaint, it can be quite serious. And so all the things in the past don't count. There's no evidence for it. Even if you ring and you hang up the phone, there's no record anywhere. So I wish that I did do it earlier, because I honestly think then, when I really needed it, that I would have had the system behind me. So I'd like that to be, aware if anyone's in a situation trying to work out what to do. I'm also fully aware of how scary that can be if you escalate to, the outside system and, what pressure that can put on you at home too. So I will dance that dance as well, going, is this better than what could happen?
That's the thing. Sometimes you think it's better the devil you know. My mum used to say that, Lisa, it's better the devil you know. But if you're in that space and you're that like caged in, there has to be another way. There really does. And no one should have to live like that. But then looking outside and going, well, if I do start something, is it really going to be worth it? Because it's going to be a whole shit show. And it's really hard. It's hard to make that choice. It is.
It definitely is. And I'll even say, after you leave, I think that can escalate things as well. So you really need a good, safeguard and a good system around you at that time. And it was only until after I left that I ended up with PTSD. So it was like I was fine for a while because I was just in survival mode and getting things done and, protecting my children and, getting a new life set up, and it was all sort of go. But then, and then I'll be honest, I started doing talking counselling. And for me, I just felt that just reinforced the whole idea of trauma. And even I didn't really ever associate myself with this kind of person who would be in an abusive relationship. I felt like that was always other people.
I was like that when I was in drugs and alcohol. I'm like, how did I get there? Who is that person? I'm a strong, smart woman. How the hell did I become that person? And, and you say about counselling, and we actually spoke about this before we hopped on here, it's with counselling is great for some people. For me, I was like you, it didn't do me justice. Reliving that trauma, constantly talking about it it was not healthy. It was not, I wasn't moving. I was just sitting in my shit.
For sure. I actually blame counselling for triggering PTSD fully. I felt like I was actually in a reasonably positive and self-driven mode. I don't know that I wouldn't have fallen back in with another abuser somewhere along the line. I might not have had the skills to have stepped myself out of that old life, but maybe I would have. I'm not quite sure. But so I think that in a way that having PTSD set me on a bit of a healing journey and self-development. Like I've done ridiculous amounts of training and therapies and all sorts of things, me and for my children. And like to the point I'm a life coach, advanced life coach, diploma life coach, NLP practitioner, EFT, which is emotional freedom technique, and then there's a power coach in there, and oh my god, I went
done it all. You want to discover why, and that's what happened with me. I was like, okay, let's uncover the mind and why I did it. Oh, and now let's uncover why I don't like what I said, and then let's uncover this, and now let's start the healing. I love the fact that you took your children on this journey, because a lot of times the children, they don't get that space to be able to heal. The mothers, I'll use the word, it's just the only thing she can focus on is herself, and it's really, really hard, or she can't focus on anything.
Yeah, it is tricky, and you do have to be in a good place to be able to help your children, but they were exposed to some things and put under threat themselves, so I felt like they really needed it. And I had one of my kids in counselling, and it was 45 minutes once a week at $160 a week, which I didn't really have, and I just saw what they were achieving in one 45-minute session. I just sat there actually a bit despondent, going, this is never going to help him. The only person who can help him is me, because I'm going to be there every day. So that's when I thought, instead of investing in counselling, I'll invest in my own education so I could help. Yeah, it was a good thing to do in the end, but they've had a hard road too, the kids, but they're doing great now, and I'm really proud of them.
How long since you separated or left your partner?
18 years now.
Oh, 8. Whoa.
So it is a long time, but sadly, I still have little surprises that come up from time to time. So I don't know if anyone knows emotional freedom technique. I think it's the one thing that cures PTSD.
I love it. I
love it too. And I feel like
instant.
Instant, within 15 minutes. I've been going to talking counselling for probably 2 years by the time I discovered it. And I did speak to a counsellor, a psychologist friend, and said, I just don't really love this whole psychology thing. I think it's not helping. I feel like it's getting worse, if anything. And she was the one, actually, to her credit. She was a little bit left field psychologist. And she said, look, if all else fails, try this technique called EFT. And because I felt like I'd lost trust of other people, it was fantastic because I could teach myself as well. And I did get certified in it, as well as doing the home remedy.
Explain a little bit what it is, because people that are listening are probably like, EFT, what? They're probably all Googling, going, oh my God, what is this?
What is it?
It's called tapping as well. They're like, ooh, I love it. It opens the subconscious massively. I love it.
It really does. Yeah. So basically, when you see for the first time, you go, it's a bit weird. So it's like an acupuncture tapping system, and there's certain points that you tap on when you're in a heightened state, or you've got a thought in your mind. And basically what it's doing is, without having to talk about it, you can actually capture that feeling in your body that is stuck. So it's when you have a thought, it's resurfacing a whole bunch of negative feelings, like that fright and flight feeling, that's an anxiety that's stuck in your body. And so what it does is, at the peak of that, you do the tapping, and it actually shuts down that old neural pathway and puts a new one in. So it's like electronic almost, which I love.
Scientifically proven. It's actually scientifically proven. I remember the first time I did it, my husband came in and went, you're right. And I'm like, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah. Tap.
Good. And also the other thing I love about it is, because I get a lot of anxiety and panic attacks, is that you can actually do the hand tapping, so no one sees what you're doing. So it actually changes and shifts your neurological pathways and your mindset into somewhere else. I love it. Honestly, it is. And I have lots of downloads when I get it. When I clear it, I'm like, oh, that's why I do that. Fuck, I never realized. Like the clarity I gain from it is just love it.
Oh no, it's absolutely brilliant. The one useful thing I think is good to know is that it does deal with like one aspect at a time. So, you know, when I'm saying you're in a heightened state, it's, you know, you've had a memory of, you know, that time that, you know, he was going to run over you in the car kind of thing. And and even the sound of a vehicle, a particular car comes, I would be really triggered by that. Yeah. And it was like a V8 certain car. And I would hear it and I'd be, ooh, you know, because I'd be thinking it was coming for me because that had been a threat. And so I can tap and get rid of that. But they don't take away the memory, which is fantastic. So the idea is when that car comes by, I can go, oh yeah, I used to be triggered by that. Do you know what I mean?
Emotional attachment.
That's it. So it's great. It doesn't change your memory or mess with you. It's not like hypnosis or anything. So it's really, I think, quite a healthy system. I don't think any harm can come from EFT. I'm like super, super big fan. The only thing you do need to be aware of is that it fixes one aspect at a time. So, okay, that feeling of the car, I dealt with that. But then there might be something else that comes up. And here I am 18 years down the track. And this year I had something that really triggered me badly. And I was hooking up with a guy who was like, it was very intimate and very intense. Actually, it's like probably to love bombing stage where it's not actually very healthy. And then at the same time, I could see that it wasn't congruent with his beliefs and also his other behavior. So I was getting these like paradoxes, you know, that thing when you're in an abusive relationship, you have someone who might like act like they really love you, but then they threaten you in the same voice. So you in that paradox all the time. And so that came up with this guy, and I had I'd say a reasonable meltdown over it. And I went, oh, okay, we're all this time
here again.
all this thing. So then I knew, okay, that's something else to tap on now and deal with that. And so the good thing is with EFT, once you've dealt with it, it's gone, but you kind of don't know it's there until it sort of surfaces.
So it's subconscious isn't it? It locks all these things away, and it's your, I call it the engine, like it drives you, it tells you where you need to go, but you know, so if it just does it on automatic pilot, okay, this is what we're doing, this is the thoughts, this is our beliefs, this is our feelings, and off you go. And it's not actually like the conscious mind. It's
very true.
So what's in there?
And it's funny, I've lived quite a, you know, empowered life since then, I would say. Like probably after the first 5 years, I look back now on videos of me at that time and I go, oh my gosh, I was such a victim. Like I look at myself on video talking and I'm nothing like this person now. And I feel like I've just evolved to be in my total power, building a global company. I'm writing books now. I speak. You know, I'm sort of humble about it, like a bit, you know, just real. I'm not like, woo, pumped up on stage or anything kind of like that, but it's a very real sort of person. But I've got something to say, and especially the media story now.
Tell me more about the media, because I'd really love to hear your aspect from it. I think we're quite in tune with this from what I was understanding. But
I'm really excited to have the chance to help people know, because I think we're brought up in certain environments and I think we're made to think that that's normal. And, you know, what roles a man has and what role a woman has, you know, what a role at a certain age is supposed to be. Like I get that all the time, you know, I'm still doing things people think, you know, I'm 20 years younger than I am, but I just go, well, why can't I do that stuff, you know? But I think the media's actually now proven through, there's some research that's been done there's one in the UK that definitely links how we see negative stereotypes, like, you know, women being in the, you know, the children's provider and the only provider in the kitchen and the man sitting there being waited on. And likewise for men who can't be in you know, parenting roles because they're idiots, bumbling idiots and stuff like that. They're really harmful too. And so then, you know, these incapable men type of mentality, that's not helping anyone either. And so I feel, and so there's actually research now that says that causes domestic violence, bullying and mental health problems, no question. So I'm trying my best to change that by educating people, but also I do advocacy in my industry, marketing industry, and it's a bit of a lone voice, I'll be honest. And also the other thing I'm trying to do is get government to change the self-regulation system and even the equality laws. I know, yeah. I'm waiting on the Minister for Communications right now, hoping that he's actually going to pay attention to it, but we'll see. Yeah, I'm pretty hopeful and I'm not going to stop, so I'll keep going.
Good on you. And I mean, it's really hard when you're up against a beast like the media, because it really does rule the world. What they want you to see, and you don't see a lot of the truth, and you don't see a lot of what needs to be seen, and you really are programmed. Your neurological pathways are programmed from looking. Like, I don't watch TV anymore. There is no way I'll watch TV anymore.
I'm the same. Yeah, especially the news. I refuse to watch the news, and even the newsrooms here in Australia, like it's like 95 to 99% run by men. So actually our news is not even proper news, and it's got political undertones and stuff like that too.
Through it, absolutely. And unfortunately, we're not seeing the truth. And when you're not seeing the truth, you're living in the reality that they're making you see, because that's how they want you to be living. And that's how they want you acting, and that's how they want you to be encompassing. So the woman goes and she does this and she does this and she does that, and the man's supposed to do this and this and that, and then, you know, like leave school, go get a job, get a house, get a mortgage. Who does that benefit?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's like it's. I always say, follow the money trail, and you'll find the truth.
No, I definitely think there's a lot of corruption there. And the trouble is, even well-meaning people in my industry, and there are a lot of good people, the self-regulation system's like so disparate. So there's one little bit that does that, and another little bit that does another thing, and another little one that does just these things. And then there's gaps between them all. So there's nothing that's easy for people to actually make a complaint anyway. And there's research. I'm super nerdy, so there's lots of research and data I'm into. And so you look at these numbers, and basically most people don't even know how to complain. And if they do complain, they don't think it's going to be worth anything. So nothing will get done.
That's the thing as well. It's not worth it. It's not worth the hassle. You might as well just sit here and just do what you're supposed to do, because it's a hell of a lot easier. Yeah,
that's exactly right. Yeah. And it's tricky because, you know, when you're with someone who's narcissistic too, they're so self-certain.
Yep.
Absolutely mind-bending. And they do not see any other existence than their own. And the fact that they've been brought up in, you know, their kind of privileged world, and they expect you to be in some kind of lower level box. And oh no, you can't start to be successful, because they'll drag you down. And, you know, I was hiding a lot of my successes because I didn't want to be put down over it either. So I really know I played a role in this. So it's not total blame. That's the maturity that you get from evolving and learning things. You know, I was in that life too, because I was taught these stereotypes as well. And so I was trying to live the, you know, perfect wifey kind of life, and be a career person, and be a, you know, perfect mother. Yeah. So it was just not sustainable. Mum was
probably the same, and the grandmother, and et cetera, et cetera. And the thing is that when you're in it, you're in survival mode. So you do what you have to do to get by, and it gets so exhausting. When I was in my narcissist relationship, it was just, I didn't actually realize what the hell was going on, and how controlled I was being, and my God, like I wasn't even allowed Facebook. Like, this is like 10 years.
Yeah, wow.
Now, oh no, you're not like that. No. I wasn't allowed to go out without him. I wasn't like, even when I was on just everything was recorded. He needed to see everything, but I couldn't see his phone, and I couldn't see what he was doing. And it was, but then it was always made to be that it was me, that I was, you're just why you say paranoid all the time? You're just like your mother. You love that one.
That's actually got a name now. I didn't even know that at the time. I didn't know about gaslighting. I didn't know about stonewalling, and even name calling.
So what's when they blown that? Is that gaslighting? Is it?
Yeah, gaslighting is what you just had happen. So it's when someone reverses the problem back onto you. So even though they are the problem, they put it back onto you. It's actually interesting. It came from a scene in a play in the, I don't know, late 1800s or something, like, I don't know, could have been Shakespeare or something, I'm not sure. But it was some play, and in the play, someone, the one character had something to do with a gaslight, and he kept sending it back to the woman or something. So it became the vernacular for this behaviour where you put it back on the other person. I thought that's so clever.
What was the other one you said?
Stonewalling. So that's when they refuse to have any negotiation or conversation with you.
That's what narcissists, it's always stonewalling.
Yep. Absolutely.
And you're never allowed to do better than they are. And you actually touched on it, and it's actually learned behaviour. They think it's normal. They like, well,
that's it. Yeah.
And it's a game. It actually becomes a game for them to get you and your family so comfortable. Oh no, he's a good guy. What are you talking about? He's one of the nice, or girl, whatever, but we're talking about females. So he's a good guy. What are you talking about? Your rubbish is so nice. And yet behind the scenes, it's all that manipulation. Then when it explodes, he's the nicest man in the world. So you're like, oh, but he loves me. He does.
Oh, I know.
Too.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. And this control can come from what seems nice behavior, but it isn't as well. Like they, oh, baby, you can't go out. What am I going to do without you? Kind of thing. And then they sort of play on your sympathy, and that you're not doing your bit to keep the relationship going because you want to go out once a month, like, oh, what time are you going to be home then? And then texts coming, because it's 9 o'clock and you're still not home.
What are you doing? Who are you with? What are you doing?
That's right.
The minute they think they're starting to lose control is when they play the nice person. So if anybody is in this sort of a relationship, you'll be going, oh, and Lisa, oh shit, I get that. I feel that. Oh my goodness, this is what's happening. And it's really hard to be in this sort of abusive relationship. And I like to say that, it's, even though the abuser is very nasty, a lot of the times it's actually in their DNA. It's within them. They don't know how else to be, so they just go along the programming that they've watched within their parents. Same as someone who abuses someone, hits them. I'm never going to be like that person, and they end up one day waking up and going, shit, I'm like this person. So then they get angry, and of course, who are they going to take it out on? The person that's closest to them. It's a whole it's just like that little rat on the wheel, just doing the same thing every day, expecting a different result but thinking that you're different. So a lot of them don't realize they're doing it. It's how they think relationships should be.
Yeah, no, they totally do. And then, they think you're the crazy one. I mean, my ex even said, like, I tried to get us to go to counselling for a long time. And when we did, they'd say, that's abusive. And, all those sort of words came up, and then they kicked us stink because they were biased and whatever. But, right at the end, even when I said, oh, I'm done, he's like, oh, well, let's go to a counsellor and get you fixed. That was his perspective on it, which is just hilarious.
He believes that.
Yeah, totally believe
it. Yeah. So how did you end up finally getting out? What did you finally get out?
Yeah, it wasn't easy because there was a threat. Yeah, there was the threat to run over me if I left him. So it was the hardest thing I've ever done. And now I go, you know what? If I did that, I can run a global company. I can do anything. I survived that sort of thing.
A lot of them use, I'm going to hurt you and your family, or I'm going to take your kids away from you. Or
I get
really hit your pain points.
Yeah, and they do actually as well, doing things like I've had to get the courts quite involved to protect my kids along the way, because that was his way of trying to get to me. So it's been really tricky. Yeah. I know there was something you asked about then that I didn't answer properly. What were we saying? I can't think what it was now. Sorry about that. We just sort of get, there's so much to talk about. It's like, where do you start?
So
they're getting out.
Finally leave him. How did you finally go, I've had enough? How did you do it?
Yeah. I mean, there was definitely the moment when I went, that's it. I can't do it anymore. And we were rowing in a canoe and it was like, there could be a bit of a long story, but in a nutshell, in the canoe, basically I was the only one rowing. And he was up the front. He would not take any instructions from me. And I was paddling my ass off trying to keep this bloody canoe going straight. And anyway, as it turned out, because he could only see one way. And in the end,
metaphor for your life.
It absolutely was. You are 100% right.
Oh my God.
And then I went, you know what? I'm doing everything and I'm just done. And so in that moment, I knew that I had to go, and I just hung up my oar and put it across the top of the boat. And then I said, you row, because I'm done. And then he tried to row, and about 2 minutes he lasted, and I'd been doing it an hour. And he's like, oh, this is kind of hard. Oh, I can't do it. You've got to do it, like, you're making me do this all on my own, sort of stuff. Anyway, so in the end I said, I'm only going to row if you're going to like collaborate with me. And then, like, I've been asking. So anyway, we both then rowed back to the shore, and I was going, yeah, I am out of here, but how on earth am I going to do it and be safe?
Yeah.
So that was tricky. So that was a Sunday afternoon, family canoe ride, which was disastrous. And then I waited until we had a face-to-face counselling appointment.
Yeah.
And I raised it in front of her. And like, he was refusing to get out of the house and was like refusing to accept it. And thank goodness, yeah, she got him to agree to call his parents to see if he could have like at least 2 weeks breather out at their place. Unfortunately, they didn't help at all. So they just said, a man's job is in their home, and you are not.
See where he gets it from.
Yeah, exactly. Say no more. So that did not help at all. And then we ended up having to go back to the counsellor again to try and negotiate.
But you kept trying to leave, and you just couldn't get that break.
No, you can't. And I didn't have anywhere to go, and I didn't have the money for another house. And, I was really the only one looking after the kids at the time. My kids didn't even ask where he was for 7 weeks. So they didn't have any real, care for him.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so we were really the three of us, me and my 2 kids were kind of on our own anyway. So I think that third party and having someone witness the whole thing was actually a really smart move of mine in the end. I felt like it gave me a degree of protection. And the sense of reason, because that's one thing that narcissists, I think, don't like, is being accountable to the outside world, and they want to be a good guy or a good person, and good girl. And definitely, I know narcissistic women as well. So I think I would recommend that again. I think that was quite smart on my part. I admit that I did it completely out of fear, but actually I think it was really super smart.
You're probably led there without realizing by your higher self. It's like, okay, this is what we need to do.
Yeah.
But it's hard making that break, and and you just think that everyone's going to think you're an idiot and that you're just making it up, and it's not that bad. Married life isn't easy, just hang in there, because they see him as somebody different, and then in reality, that's why I say you never know what goes on behind closed doors. My mum used to say that all the time.
I know, it's very true. And like, I asked questions along the way too. I'd say, I don't think my partner really looks after me that well. And other people, all men are the same. Those sorts of stereotypes are not helpful, and they're not true as well. So I think a lot of women actually need to stop saying that. When you're with good men, you need to be more appreciative, because I'm telling you that people are not good. And I think a lot of people I know are actually really overly critical and disrespectful and unappreciative of really good men, and also, really good women in their life as well. So I'm, kind of the opposite. And then I'm looking around me and I'm going, I don't know if there's anyone I know that's got a relationship that I would aspire to have.
Would want. So, yeah. I definitely know that it took me 46 years to find my one. 46.
Oh, that's amazing.
46 years. Good grief, and when I met him, I was like, "No, you're too good for me. You're too nice." And I really did not think I was worthy to have in my life. I'm like, you're just like a heart on legs. I don't understand how you want to love me like this. And I didn't know how to be loved. So when you started going and started dating, did you have a similar thing of like real bad trust issues?
Oh, look, here I am 18 years along, and I felt, I think actually I felt for a long time I was living quite an empowered life, and I haven't been monogamous in 20 years. I've had 2 3-month stints at it, and the first one, like, I had like a proper panic attack over it, because there were just some things where he wasn't listening to me that triggered everything. And so I realized, I was like, no. So I was, too not ready and right. And I think that's another stereotype that bothers me, that, you know, people think that, you know, you hook up with someone and that you've got to work towards this forever thing. And I feel like that's not actually that helpful in the world. So I've lived very different to that since. And probably you know, I'm also in a phase now where after, you know, being in lockdown for 275 days or something really crazy like that, my past life was, yeah, I'm really ready for something different. Yeah. And the transient kind of world that I have, like, there's people who've been in my world, you know, 6 years, 18 months, 2 years, but you know, I might layer them up because I have people in my life when I want them. And I'm also conscious that I'm choosing men that are too young for me, and, you know, I probably am using that as a little bit of a protection.
I was gonna say,
really facing myself with it.
I did a very similar thing, and because I had abandonment issues, and I went from man to man to man to man, you know, trying to have that male be loved sort of thing. And I went 3 years by myself before I met my hubby, and it was the best thing I ever did. And I always said I was never getting married. He proposed to me, and I sat crying for 15 minutes. I couldn't answer him. I was like, I don't believe in marriage. I didn't say that, but in my head, it's like, you don't believe in marriage. What the fuck? You married, you're going to go to shit, because my mum had 3 or 4 marriages. And I'm like, no. Because I was the same. I was like, nah, no one's getting in here. No one's fucking breaking me. So it's interesting how we have those coping mechanisms of,
So that's definitely, you know, I think everyone has to keep working on themselves. So it's not just people who've been through things like we're talking about here. So I don't think it's, you know, we're the only ones that are sort of broken or anything. I feel like it's just an evolution. And, you know, there's a certain part of my past I'm going, I would not have swapped my life for any of my girlfriends. You know, I got these super hot guys with abs and, you know, whatever.
Baby.
Is that a problem? Is it a problem?
No, because we're supposed to be in each other's cup. Not it takes us back to our primary. It takes us back to the real root of who we are.
Yeah, and I go, when I'm in a world where, well, I have no pressures or commitments to anybody, and the kids are big now and they're out of the home, so I feel like I've kind of kicked my heels up a bit for probably the last 10 years especially. And then I think, you know, no obligation, but I think what I'm actually looking for in a relationship is a friend and a lover. And, you know, you don't have to have that. Oh, sorry, my doorbell ringing. You don't have to have that. You know, you don't have to have a traditional marriage to actually be a functional person in the world either. So
absolutely.
I think that's kind of a stereotype, although I don't go, and I never thought that I would be, but now I'm listening to you, I'm going, oh my God, imagine if that happened, you know, and someone wanted to marry me and I've been this stoic, don't need to get married person.
It was tough. And then I made him wait 2 years. I would not set a date. I was like, nah. I didn't want to get married. I really didn't. It was like, it's just a piece of paper. And it wasn't that, it's just a piece of paper. It was like, it really just is.
But you also, I think, I'd be worried, because I've also experienced something which is a typical domestic abuser thing, that they treat you well until the moment they've sort of got you. And so on, you know, the night of, you know, you go, okay, we're committed into a relationship, and then it's like a whole other person turns up all of a sudden. And then the minute you gave your heart to somebody, it's like, whoa. So I can really.
True. That's a really good point, Anne. So that switch is like, well, if I just stay back in here having some fun and playing, then I'm safe. And I think what it is with us in our lives is that we want to play in our safety zone, because we know it, we can control it, we understand it. And I think that's why a lot of people don't make that step out, is because what's out is frightening. It's the unknown. And we're also not only scared of how powerful we are, but we're also scared of what's on the other side and what we have to go through to get there. And it can be a lot. It can be, and sometimes it's just better just to stay where you are and just play in these rounds. And it's a little bit, it's such a tug of war, isn't it?
Yeah, it definitely is. I feel like I learned a good thing recently that I'm taking on board, if it's of use to anyone. But I feel there's, I've forgotten his name now. He's like a dating coach guy, Matthew somebody or other, an English guy, but living in Australia. I'll come to it. But he has this point of view that, us women who are like putting up the hard wall and protecting ourselves, we're not actually living in our feminine power, and being vulnerable is like the ultimate in femininity. So I can be, vulnerable and feminine too. And some people say that's the, best bit of me, which is funny. But then at the same time, I've really got this sort of cage up as well. So, it's a hard wall, and then that's a masculine energy. But Matthew, he said that the best thing we can do is let ourselves go into a relationship and don't fear the whole time that it's going to like self-combust and turn into a terrible thing, but trust that if it does, that will know how to handle it. I thought, that's a really nice way to put that. So I feel like then it gives you a bit more power and oomph to just run in for something, and then if it does self-combust, then we've been through things before, so you go, it can't be as bad as that. So I've got what it takes.
I like that. Because that's
so I think
it's the unknown.
Definitely that gave a different perspective on it, I think, because I've definitely been a bit cagey. I mean, there's plenty of people though that I know that have just put things past them, and they've bounced back, found the right person or whatever it is. I don't know. I feel like I've had a mission on this world that needed to be done without anyone else in the way. And I wouldn't swap that. Definitely giving my kids some good
role model.
They've had their own little bumpy bits to get through, and they're in a great place now. So that I was really committed to that, and committing to achieving things in my business, and
and you've done so well, to build a global network is just it really is. And to do it, as you say, so much in your feminine, because most people think they have to be completely in their masculine to build, but you seem quite a nurturer, lover. You seem quite, your energy is very feminine. So it's refreshing. It's nice. It's really refreshing.
Very real, I get told. Like, I'm like this when I'm on stage or, on a television thing or whatever it is, like I'm just me. And I'm even with the biggest, sort of speaker training and whatever, I just can't be anything other than myself. And I don't care if it impacts success, because I just can't be anything other than this. And I find all that, put your hand here and the hands there and hypnotize people and stuff. Just
I've never done it. I just couldn't. I
just can't do it. And luckily, I've got a kind of following that like real. And so I don't have to be a slick presenter in any way, so it doesn't matter. But I feel like I've got an inner strength that I never had before, which is fascinating. I think, you can be soft, but you can still have this self-certainty. And I think sometimes I come up with people who try to control me and put me into little boxes. And funny enough, they're always the ones that say that you're controlling, which is hilarious. But actually, the truth is I put a very firm boundary now. So I have become really good at that. I go, okay, is this a two-way thing or a one-way thing? Okay, I'm drawing a line here and I'm saying this is what I believe in, and you can take it or leave it. But they're the ones who want you to comply with, or conform into their world. And when you've got self-certainty, I feel like you can do a lot in.
That's a big thing from someone who's overcome domestic violence and abuse and narcissists. That's really big, because usually you conform to what everybody else is, because that's the way that you become programmed to meeting everybody else's needs and doing what they say, doing that want, so that everything's okay. And it's just it's huge. It's huge.
Thanks for noticing. No, I do.
Compartmentalize it is huge.
I think the other thing. But what you're reminding me of is another thing too, because I think when I first came out, I felt like I stopped being a generous person because I felt like I'd been exploited. And so I stopped contributing and helping, and I was I think I went through a bit of a take phase maybe, or just self-protect. And I feel happy that over, in the time that I've had my own business, I feel like I can be generous again. And with no expectation for anything, I'll give freely for certain things if I the person or whatever. So I'm pleased to have that back. And something for others to be aware of. Like, don't hold everything back and don't give as well. I mean, it's not the same as people pleasing. I think that's a slightly different thing. But I think being generous without worrying that someone's going to exploit you at the end,
which is huge. It's a big thing, isn't it? Because you're scared to give because you gave a little bit and they took your whole fucking world, really, didn't they?
Yeah,
that's right. Around and shucked you at the other side. It's like, who the hell am I? How did I get here? Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, I think I don't know about you. I'd be curious your story too, but I feel like those decisions and who you are with in the past can really impact you all the way through your whole life from then on. So I don't think it's like all of a sudden things, miraculously get better. But I think what you get really good at is how to do life, regardless of those things. So I feel like also I'm at that point, which I wrote in my book about it. When people say, oh, well, one day it'll all be worth it, all those sorts of rubbish comments that just get right up there. And people mean well when they say it, but it's just so insensitive.
So fucking cliche.
So bad. And, oh, well, it'll be a learning exercise or whatever. It's like you just swear at them. Yeah, that's right. It's like get bip. But no, bad.
You can say it on this. You can say it.
Oh, yeah. I could very easily say it. And so I think, funny enough, only you can come to that position. So I'm starting to come to that position now and thinking, what, if that didn't happen, I wouldn't be doing this, or I wouldn't have done, achieved these things, or I wouldn't be the one that's, confidently thinking I'm going to change the self-regulation system.
And which is huge.
That's like seems almost impossible, but it's going to happen. So I just keep going until I figure out how. But I think, well, I wouldn't have that. I wouldn't be a conscious capitalist. I wouldn't be even having the company I have now. I might have just sucked up some day job in a gender biased work environment and been bossed around for the rest of my life. I think every job I've even had, I've left because they'd say I didn't have a place there as a woman, or I'd be blanked in a meeting. I even had my boss's penis on my shoulder while I was on the phone negotiating with someone once. Like, there's just been really terrible things.
It's funny how you have been exposed to the extreme.
Yeah, it has.
Because you had to get. Yeah, this is your part of your journey of now helping others.
Yeah, so that's true. Yeah, I do feel like, and like you, I'm really pleased to see that you're getting this awareness out to people, and it's really fantastic. So I'm up for supporting anyone that is doing that, and together we can show other people a bit of an easier way. I don't know about you, but there weren't resources like this when I was first out, and you fairly feel like you're the only one, and they've made you believe that you were the problem all that time.
That you're
the crazy one.
And you're over there by yourself, when in fact, no, there is so many people going through, and especially with what's happening in the world, that everybody is now submerged in domestic violence because you can't get out and you're in there 24/7 kids, and it's skyrocketing. I know in New Zealand, this is a funny fact, I think it's fun, is that when the All Blacks lost a game, domestic violence went through the roof in New Zealand. Through the roof.
Yeah, because no one's got anywhere to escape, and alcohol consumption's up more than ever. Everyone's watching media more than they ever used to. I feel like that's enough of a case.
The charging, everyone's charged. So it's at the moment, it's if you're sitting there and you're in this circumstance and you can't quite get out, start making some decisions and start getting yourself in a space that when you do, you can. And as Anne said, really, really try to find someone that you can either talk to or that can actually see what's happening, so you have that strength with you for when you do it, because doing it alone it's hard. It's not impossible, but it's bloody hard. And having someone there to support you and see what and be able to back you up really is a big thing. So reach out.
Yeah, I do agree with that. That's super good advice. And I feel like a lot of people who go, and I thought it, and I was going, oh, these people who are in abuse, like, really violent situations, they should just get out of there. What are they thinking? And then I'm going, oh my God, I was one of those people. I just didn't.
So easy to do that, isn't it? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not even safe to leave all of a sudden, and you don't have the means. Like, where are you going to take your kids? Where are you going to live? My family lived in the country, and it was, I had a day job. There was no way I had anywhere else to take my kids or to live. So we had to be in the house. So you are stuck there sometimes. And I know, women that have had no financial freedom and only given certain amounts of allowances, which, they had to use for household stuff, bank their own. Like, if I was, seeing anyone else in that situation, I'd say, get yourself employed as quickly as you can, get your own financial power, and save up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I did just see yesterday that there's just been released, I don't know if it's Australia only, a $5,000 package for women in abuse or women, to be able to get out. So they're starting, I think, finally, there's some support. It's huge. $5,000 is just massive, and I don't know if it's ongoing or anything, but and it's like when I see it's really funny, we had this relief and they come out and give $5,000 to people for there's something happening. It's like, well, hang on, let's have an ongoing support system because it's so much needed. It is so much needed.
That's awesome. That gives you a bit of time to get yourself a job, find a house, house deposit, and fill the pantry, and even uniforms to change. Kids have to move schools or whatever. I think that's a really wonderful thing.
I saw it yesterday. I was like, wow, that's so cool. Wish that was there.
Same.
With
awesome.
My mum, sorry, I was not up to that side of it. So if you could give your younger self one bit of advice, or you could give the people here, whatever you feel, one bit of advice, what would it be?
I feel like there's the before and after advice here. So I'd go before, like, be really sure before you get into it, because I think that we're brought up in society that you kind of go with, who's in front of you, and we're told better and worse and those sorts of language. So you sort of feel like you have to stick to someone even if stuff's not like good, not all completely good. And I'm not saying be a perfectionist, but there's certain things are acceptable and certain things not. So just be more aware before you get in. And then getting out, I feel you have to plan, do it safely. And I would say this is probably not going to sound nice, but I would actually say the thing I've had to learn the most out of the whole thing is that it's actually partly my responsibility that I was there, and getting out, and why I got there in the first place, why I stayed, what mindset I had to think that was sort of normal, to be there. And even those traditional values of, better and worse, sort of sticking with your partner, those things I think are unhealthy for us. So I've had to really take stock of my own part. And even when I wrote the book, a lot of people go, that's like it's a bit of a hard shake up of yourself as much as anything, but also firm boundaries around yourself.
I love that. And I think you have to look at your self-involvement in it so you don't do it again, or you don't attract
that's right.
Otherwise,
for sure.
You're gonna fucking, honestly, how many times have I had shit relationship and then because I was the bad boy. It was always the bad boy,
Yes.
So, I agree, and it may sound harsh, but it's reality. It's smart. It's like, okay, so how can, and it's not to blame and shame yourself. It's to go, okay, so how can I take responsibility? So how can I do things differently this time? What do I need to heal from? What do I need? I love it. Yeah, no, definitely, 100%. I get it. I love it.
Thanks.
Well, thank you so much for being on. I absolutely adored talking. This is like another just such an amazing different podcast, and to hear things from your side. And if anybody is having any sort of problems, there's definitely people you can reach out to. So just know that you're not alone, and know that there is always someone there to help you, even if you think not. And it's okay to reach out. It's actually strength to reach out. It really shows you're strong. It does not show you're weak. So thank you so much for joining me, beautiful.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the chance for people to hear this perspective on the media, especially. And I think it's a wonderful thing for people, because there was just nothing like that when I was around, and I wish there was, because it's so.
Well, your details are below, so anyone that wants to actually communicate with Anne, please do so. If you want to reach out and you want to understand the suits and sneakers and all about her book from chaos.
Thank you.
Chaos, sorry.
Yeah, it's get out of the rubbish.
Yeah. And we will thank you for joining us on this beautiful The Art of Quantum Healing episode. See you later. Thanks, Anne.
Thanks so much.
Amazing.
Thank you so much for listening to today's podcast. Make sure to check out all the show notes of today's episode on my website by clicking on the link in the description. Also, make sure to join my newsletter to receive a free guided meditation to help you feel grounded throughout your day. Finally, make sure to subscribe to my channel and help us grow the community by sharing it with your friends. I am your host, Lisa Nadler, and this is The Art of Quantum Healing.